Today I will be reading chapter 8 of Molly's story. If you remember, chapter 7 ended with them at the art class, and Molly was on the desk getting drawn. So now we are on chapter 8. It was a shame I couldn't stay with my girl all day, every day, but whenever she was doing school, I was stuck at home with Gloria. I tried to show Gloria that, even though CJ was my girl, I was perfectly willing to be friendly to her too. But it was pretty clear that Gloria didn't want that. If I came close to ask for an ear scratch or a back rub, she'd push me away. If I stood near the back door to go out, she'd sigh with impatience before she opened it, and she often forgot to let me back in. I'd have to bark very loudly to remind her. Somehow, I got the feeling that, around Gloria, I was never a good dog. That's why I was so surprised when, one day, while CJ was doing school, Gloria actually talked to me when I came into the kitchen. "There you are," she said. Her voice was not very friendly. I kept my rear end lowered to show that I understood she was the boss, and I wagged a little, hoping she'd be happier if she knew I was no threat. She was standing near the refrigerator with the door open, holding something in her hand. I came a little closer to see if it might be food. "Yuck," Gloria said. She often said that when I was around, but I never could figure out what that meant. "Look at this cheese. I swear I just bought it." She glanced from the thing she was holding to me, and then she closed the refrigerator door. Too bad. There were things in there that I would have liked to smell some more. "Want a treat?" she asked. My rear end came untucked, and my head lifted. Treat? I knew that word. "A dog won't mind a little mold, I guess," Gloria said. She pulled some thin plastic away from the object in her hand, and an enticing, rich smell wafted out. Cheese! Saliva began to gather in my mouth. She broke off a chunk of the cheese, jabbed a long metal fork into it, and held it out to me. I sniffed at it hopefully. She held it still. I nibbled at it tentatively and hesitated, waiting for her to get angry, to call me a bad dog. "Go on, take it," Gloria said impatiently. I pulled the cheese off the fork, dropped it to the floor, and ate it in 2 gulps. Clearly, Gloria had decided that I was a good dog after all. "Here," Gloria said with a clang. She dropped the rest of the cheese in my bowl. How wonderful! CJ never gave me treats this big. "Make yourself useful," Gloria said. "Ridiculous we spend so much on all that expensive dog food when you could just eat up the stuff that's gone bad." I picked up the heavy block of cheese and then dropped it back into the bowl. I honestly wasn't sure how to go about eating something this size, but when Gloria left the kitchen, I settled down to the serious work of gnawing one bite at a time. By the time I'd gotten it all down, I was drooling a little and very thirsty. I lapped up most of my water. Gloria came through the kitchen a few minutes later. "Finished?" she asked. "Okay, out." She opened the door to the backyard and stood by it. I got the sense of what she wanted and hurried outside. It felt better out there anyway. Gloria's voice and posture said I was still a bad dog, while the cheese said I was good. It was confusing. I was glad to lie on the grass and not think about it for a while. The earth was cool against my belly, and the sun was warm along my back. I wished I had some more water, but it was too much trouble to get up and bark at the back door for Gloria to let me in so I could go to my bowl. For now, I was content to lie there and fall asleep. When I woke up, I knew something was wrong. I was thirstier than ever, which didn't make much sense because my mouth was flooded with saliva. It was running out of my mouth and onto the grass. I shook my head, which made me dizzy, and I got up. But my legs were trembling so much it was hard to walk. All I could do was brace my legs far apart and stand there so that I wouldn't fall, waiting for my girl to come. I don't know how long it took, but my girl did come. I heard her footsteps inside the house. Then the door banged open. "Molly, come in," CJ called. I wanted to be with my girl. I knew I was supposed to be with my girl. I took a wobbly step, holding my head low. "Molly?" CJ came out onto the grass. "Molly, are you okay? Molly?" The last time she said my name, it was a scream. I wanted to go to her. I knew she was worried and afraid. It was my job to be near her, but I just couldn't budge. When she came running to me and picked me up, I could hear her voice talking to me, but it sounded like my head was buried under the covers. Everything was muffled and quiet. "Mom! There's something wrong with Molly!" CJ cried. "I'm sure she'll be fine," Gloria's voice answered from somewhere inside the house. "No, Mom, come now. She has to go to the vet." My stomach heaved. CJ set me down. Vomit exploded out of my mouth and into the grass. "What did you eat? What did you eat? Oh, Molly," CJ cried out. Mom, come now. You have to drive. Hurry up. Stop yelling. All the neighbors will hear you. Gloria appeared in the driveway as CJ scooped me up again. All right, but if she throws up in my car. Come on, CJ shouted, running with me to the driveway. My girl sat in the back with me, holding me on her lap. We're going to the vet, she told me as the car started moving. Okay, Molly? Are you okay? Molly, please? I knew that my girl needed something from me. I managed to lick her hand as it stroked my face, but it was getting dark in the car. Darker and darker. I felt my tongue flop out of my mouth. Molly? CJ shouted. Molly! I opened my eyes slowly, blinking again and again. All I could see was a fuzzy light. I felt sleepy, my head too heavy to hold up, my legs floppy. Had I somehow become a puppy again? I whined and squirmed a little, hoping to find my mother, but I couldn't smell her. I couldn't smell anything, really. I groaned, feeling myself begin to slide back into sleep. Molly? I jerked awake. It was CJ's voice. My girl was near me. I blinked again and again and my vision cleared. I could see CJ close beside me. She put her face next to mine. Oh, Molly, I was so worried about you. Her hands stroked my fur and she kissed my face. I wagged, my tail beating softly on something metal, a table. I was in the vet's office. I realized. I still felt too weak to raise my head, but I could reach out to lick CJ's hand. Thank goodness I was still alive to take care of my girl. I'd been to the vet before and I knew her name was Dr. Marty. I didn't like the way she smelled, but she did have good, gentle hands. She was standing behind CJ now talking to her. Her last seizure was very short, more than 3 hours ago. I think we're out of the woods. But what made her sick? CJ asked, her voice a little tearful. I don't know, Dr. Marty said. She obviously got into something she shouldn't have. Oh, Molly, CJ said, don't eat bad things, okay? I licked her face as she kissed me again. After a while, I felt better and I could lift my head and then stand. I lapped up some water eagerly and CJ took me home. Gloria sat in the front seat, driving. I could tell she was angry. The tension in her muscles and the way she held her head made it obvious. I huddled into CJ's lap in the back seat. It was hard to imagine how I'd been a bad dog when I felt so weak, but Gloria made me feel that way. CJ carried me inside and put me down on the soft cushions of the sofa. Not on the couch, Gloria said. CJ gave her an angry look, but she gently boosted me down on the floor and sat beside me. Gloria stood, looking down at both of us. $600, she said. Molly almost died, CJ said back. Her voice was as angry as Gloria's. Gloria threw out both hands in exasperation and walked down the hall to her room. Her door slammed. CJ scooped me up and carried me to her bed, where she cuddled me until I fell asleep again. It took me a few days to feel like myself. By the time I did, it was one of those days when CJ did not have to do school. Gloria had gone out, so we were both able to sit on the couch. CJ was looking at the screen on the wall, which I had learned was called a TV. And I was wondering why people liked to look at that thing so much. It didn't even smell interesting. Then the doorbell rang. I hurried by CJ's side as she went to answer it. One of my jobs was to inspect people who came to the door. She opened it, and her voice sounded surprised. Oh, Shane. Hey, Shane's voice said. Hey, CJ said. What's up? Nothing, Shane said. You want to hang out? Um, here? Yeah, why not? CJ hesitated, but then she opened the door all the way. I still didn't like Shane's smell. I barked once to let him know that this was my house and I'd protect everything here. Then I wagged. Okay, sure, I guess, CJ said. We're just watching TV, me and Molly. You want to come in? Shane came in, and he and CJ sat down on the couch to do more staring on the TV. I sniffed Shane's shoes and jeans thoroughly, and he put his hand on my head and pushed me away. She's just trying to get to know you, CJ said. Yeah, whatever, Shane mumbled. CJ scooped me up and put me on the couch between them. Is this okay to watch? I guess, Shane said. Do you have anything to eat? Sure. CJ got up, and I jumped down to the floor. No, you just stay there, she told Shane. I'll bring it out. I followed CJ into the kitchen. She was happier there than she'd been in the living room, so I wagged a few times. We heard the volume of the TV go up in the other room. CJ got a wonderfully crinkly bag out of the cupboard and poured some glasses full of something that fizzed. Then she carried all this back into the living room. She handed the bag to Shane, so I went and sat next to him. I knew exactly what was in those bags. I watched his face carefully. Sooner or later, I knew a chip would fall to the floor. It always did. So, Shane crunched, That art class is a drag, huh? I kind of like it, CJ said. She was twisting a shoelace around her finger. Shane put another chip in his mouth. Couldn't you tell that I was sitting right here in front of him? Didn't he understand about sharing? The chips in the bag were for him. The ones that fell on the floor were for me. That was how CJ and I always did it. You're kidding, Shane snorted. Then the doorbell rang again. It was so hard to leave the chips to go with CJ, but it was my job, so I did it. Before the door even opened, I knew it was Trent. My tail began to swish back and forth in a wide arc. Hey, how's Molly? Trent asked as soon as CJ opened the door. Molly, girl, there you are. He bent down to take my head in his lap and rub his fingers along my ears. I wiggled happily. CJ was smiling. She's better, see? Hey, CJ, coming back? Shane yelled from the living room. Trent straightened up. His grin faded. Who's that? Somebody I know from art class, CJ said. Come on in, Trent. We're just watching TV. Uh, no. My mom said I have to mow the lawn, Trent said. He shifted his weight from foot to foot. I leaned against his knees to remind him that my ears could use more attention. Can't you do it later? CJ asked. No, she said now. I just wanted to check on Molly, Trent said. Come over later? CJ asked. Trent shrugged. Glad Molly's okay, he said, and he hurried away down the front walk. CJ went back into the living room slowly. She didn't sit on the couch again. Instead, she settled down into a chair across the room. She and Shane looked at the TV for a while until the bag of chips was empty. Then Shane left. He didn't even feed me one chip. That is the end of chapter 8.